Hello everyone and welcome to episode 26 of the Moaning Show. I'm HCD Rules 0001 and in this edition I'd like to answer a request from a viewer, and in this edition I will be talking to you about public transport. Now, truth be told, I have not been on public transport in about 18 months and don't really have any plans to go on it in the next few months, even though I may have to. The first thing I want to talk about is the price of public transport. Now, like everything else, prices have to go up. It's just a fact of life. Things are more expensive now than they were, say, 5 years ago. It's just fact. But the last time I went on a bus was to a town 5 or 6 miles away from where I live, and I had to pay over £3 return. Now, last time I bought a return ticket to a destination, there was, okay, it wasn't as far, but it was less than £1. So that shows you how long ago I travelled on public transport, specifically a bus ticket. Where I live in Axminster, which is famous for its carpets and not a lot else, is quite literally the middle of nowhere. It's 30 miles to Exeter, or close to 30 miles to Exeter. It's round about 30 miles to Plymouth. It's 10 to 15 miles from anywhere decent in any direction. And the public transport that is available from Axminster, not that I've done a tremendous amount of research from this, I'm just using previous experience. The last job I had that I had to use public transport for consisted of a place that was about a mile's walk from Pinho train station, which is the stop before Exeter. And the worst thing about this particular vein of public transport, I had to catch the train early in the morning. We're talking the 5 past, not 5 past, maybe the 25 past 6 train in the morning, so I could get to work for 9 o'clock. Now, the reason I've left a couple of moments of silence there is to basically just let you take that in, to understand one of the reasons why I resigned from that particular position that I was working in at the company. I was getting up at 5:45 every day, getting ready, obviously getting what I needed for work ready, going to work, catching a 25 past 6 train, getting to my destination with well over 2 hours to wait before my working day started. Now, it was just as bad coming home. I finished work at 5 o'clock, or sometimes 6 o'clock. I finished there, and there was a train at 5 to 5 every day, so I had to wait 45 minutes to an hour to get me a train home. And to be brutally honest, so my day was 12 hours plus from the moment I woke up to the moment I arrived back in Axminster, just getting off the train. 12 hours a day. Now, a working day is round about 8 hours. So when you're travelling 4 or close to 4 hours a day, or when your working day begins at round about 5:45, when it ends at say 7 o'clock at night, that is a long day. In fact, quite frankly, that is too long a working day, and it's one of the reasons I resigned from previous position in the so-called city. And I'm just trying to give you an example of how crap the public transport service in Axminster is. If you work outside of Axminster, and let's face it, I have not been successful in applying for a position in Axminster in the 8 or so years I've lived here. So the chances are you will be working outside of Axminster if you live here. But anyway, that's another for another time. I did this journey every day for 10 months. And quite frankly, as I say, I got a little bit sick and tired of it. They changed the place where I worked to a place a quarter of a mile further or half a mile further down the road, and it added half an hour to each side of the journey. So 5 hours I was travelling per day, and it's a place that's not quite as far as Exeter is away. I would say about 25 miles. 2.5 hours for 25 miles of travelling, and that's what I'm trying to get at with public transport. You have to, you know, navigate the times that you have to be on the train, be on the bus, or, you know, pay extortionate amounts for a taxi to get you to the places you want to go. And that is one of the worst things about public transport. For instance, you start work at 9 o'clock, but the only train / bus you can get to your destination is at least 2 hours before that. So there's a couple of answers. The first answer is to just put up with it. The second answer is to try and rearrange your work times around the train / bus times, because obviously you go to a train operator or a bus operator and go, here, listen, your times are shit. Let me, I want to leave at 8:30, or I want to leave at 8:15 to get me to my destination at 9:15. That would have been perfect. But no, you can't do that. So then you've got to rearrange your work times if you're allowed, because these companies that I was working for in these places, you know, changed my times by about half an hour per side. I still wasn't able to catch the 5 to 5 train, because if I'd finish at say 4:30, I still couldn't make the train station before the next train gone, especially because I was working in a call centre, and if I was told that I would have to work till the 4:30 time schedule. So in other words, if I finished a call between 20 and 26 or 7 minutes past, I would have to take another call. If I took another call, I would be late and miss the train altogether. And that usually happened 9 times out of 10. So that's public transport from where I live currently. But public transport as a whole has a stigma attached to it. There was an incident on a train about 2 or 3 months ago, or just before Christmas, where this bloke on a train this kid on a train, about 15, 16 year old, didn't have a valid ticket. And I'm quite sure you remember this because it was all over the news and the internet. And this kid wouldn't leave the train even though the train conductor asked him to leave several times. Now, the train conductor couldn't start the train, or couldn't get the train on, which means everyone else was going to be late home or whatever. And all of a sudden, this big meaty bloke, around about my size, perhaps a little bit taller, went up to the train conductor and said, "Is there a problem here?" And the conductor began to tell him that this kid didn't have any money, wouldn't pay, didn't have a correct ticket, wouldn't pay for another ticket home. So this bloke, like the good Samaritan that he was, picked up the kid and threw him out. Literally threw him off the train. Threw his bag out after him. And the train conductor saw this time to close the doors. The kid tried to get back in, but he was pushed out of the way again by the bloke. The train doors closed and the train went away. And meanwhile, getting a round of applause from the other members on the train. Now, I don't know what's currently happening with this, but the boy's parents, or the teenager's parents, were thinking about suing this bloke. And that is what is wrong with the world today, not only public transport, but the whole suing culture that we picked up from America. But these people who are conductors, bus conductors, train conductors, do not have any power, because if the train conductor would have done that, A, he would have lost his job, B, he would have got a fine and possibly a criminal record for physical abuse or something like that. He would have been sued as well. The company itself, Southwest Train, or I say Southwest Train, whoever the train company were, would have been sued as well, probably successfully. So you've got to be extremely careful if you're a commuter on a train and you see a situation like that, because there were 99.9% of the time you can't do anything about it, and you know at the next stop, because that's what happens generally in these cases. They get to the next stop and the train conductor calls ahead to the next station to get somebody to bring him off the train, you know, and just to do it that way. As I say, the majority of people are fair paying customers, be it on a bus, be it on a train, whatever. But that's another crap thing about public transport. You're not gonna find instances when one passenger holds up an entire service. Another crappy thing about these public transport companies is the fact that the majority of them now, especially on a bus, want exact change. If your journey is X miles long and your ticket is, say, £3.55 for a return ticket. Now, granted, £3.55 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coins at the least. Means you've got to fish in your wallet or fish in your back pocket for 7 coins. But what if your fare is something ridiculous, like you're going on a shopping trip to, say, a town 20 miles away, and your fare is something like, I don't know, $6.67 return. That's an astronomical amount of coins you've got to get out. There was once upon a time you could just go on a bus, say like if your return ticket was, say, £2.50, you just plonk a £5 down, driver 1, 2, 3 coins, gives it back to you, there's your £2.50 and your ticket. Bloody stupid. And the majority of train stations now, to save money, employ a electronic ticket issuer. In other words, you type in where you want, what class you want, and you put your money in, and it comes out, blah, 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 blah. And it's just crap. And peak times, don't get me started on fucking peak and non-peak times. What a pain in the arse they are. You got a job either in the city or quite a long way away, which is why you're catching a train in the first place. And before 9 o'clock, you pay X amount more. So say like 15% more than you would do if you worked after 9 o'clock. Which is another reason to try and get your times rearranged so you pay less. Because you would end up spending, oh I don't know, say like if you took home £1,000 a month, you'd be spending say £150 to £200 just on travelling to work and back. And we're encouraged to use public transport to save on the environment. Now, in say, I don't know, 70 to 85 years, the majority of people watching this video will be dead. We won't exist anymore. And a lot of people probably think like this and say, well, why should we travel on public transport? Why should we care about the environment? We're not going to be here to worry about it. Yes, that may well be true. But, you know, eventually we have got to start doing things properly. And this is all the rubbish about the carbon footprint and all that, which is going to be a future video about it. But we're encouraged to use public transport. And quite frankly, public transport is a load of bollocks. If given the choice to get to a destination, be it for work, be it for shopping, be it for a night out or whatever, if we're given the choice to go on public transport to get to a destination either at least 30 minutes early or say 10-15 minutes late, especially for work purposes, you cannot be late every day just for the sake of say 2 hours to say 45 minutes to 2 hours early. You cannot do that, all because you don't drive, or you can't be driven because the trip is too long to do every day. You might get a lift in say once a week or twice a week. You might be lucky like that, but you cannot rely on public transport 100% of the time, as you should be able to. There might be a problem with the vine or a problem with the electrics, and you get this thing saying if trains are not working for whatever reason, they run a replacement bus service. Now, you pay a train ticket and you expect to be ferried, so to speak, to your destination by train. Now, when a train either breaks down or can't run for whatever reason, snow, leaves, whatever, comedians joke about, well, I'm not going to pay you any money, I'm going to use a couple of pencils and a suitcase or something, or a bottle of spray, or I don't know, a couple of milk chocolate buttons or something like that. And the person on the bus goes, well, what's this? Well, this is my... And comedians say, well, I'm on a replacement bus service, this is my money replacement service, why should I have to pay the same price for something that isn't as good? And no one in their right mind would do that. But replacement bus services are, you know, generically, because they've got to go through all of the towns, and it might take longer as well. So there's only so many times when your employer will forgive you for A, for being late, B, not, you know, it's all to do with disorganisation or repairs or whatever. And you you haven't got a foot to stand on. I remember being late a couple of times because trains wouldn't run or whatever, and you could visibly see your boss getting a bit annoyed, but there's nothing you can do about it if you travel by public transport. Yes, in cities it does the trick. For instance, big cities, London, Manchester, they are better. Top Gear proved it, that public transport is better in the city. But when you live out in the sticks like I do, there's something to be said for being driven there or driving to your destination. But public transport, more often than not, lets you down, and more often than not, on one end of the journey, it's usually packed full of people. So you, when you've bought your ticket, either on a bus or a train, you are effectively paying to be taken, as I say, to your destination. What I consider you're paying the money for is to get a seat. Now, when I get on a piece of public transport, a train, bus, whatever, I expect to sit down, especially on the way to destination, because you've got to, I don't know, you'd like to save as much energy as possible for the working day, for the shop, for whatever. But the problem with some journeys is the fact that they are full of people, especially closer to Christmas time. And that is the overriding bad thing about it. There should be you've got first class where all the rich people sit. I once bought a first class return ticket to work one day, and instead of paying something like $7.10 or $6.10, I paid something like what was it, $18.90. Now I understand first class is a different carriage, and I had the carriage to myself on the way back, but there was no way I was going to do that ever again. I just wanted to see what it was like. But you got first class where the rich people sit. You've got standard class where you, me, Muggins, everyone sits. There should be a third class for standing only, and that's where the majority of people should be. In this day and age, you know, with the recession, money troubles and everything that everyone seems to be having these days, you would expect a third class standing only carriage on a train to be relatively popular, because, you know, people haven't got money to spend on a bloody train every single day where they want to go to work, go shopping, go whatever. And the same could be said for buses. There is nothing worse than a packed bus. There is nothing worse whatsoever. A packed train, yeah, you can understand it because you can stand near the door, yeah, so it's not so bad. On a bus, you've got, say, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You can seat around about 40 to 50 people on a bus. You're also so like if you are sitting down, you're also expected to get up and offer your seat to an elderly, disabled or pregnant person. Not that there's many pregnant men about. I mean, I could be a case for that, but that's not what I'm trying to get at. If an old person walks towards your seat, you are expected to get up. You are expected to get up for a disabled person or person in person, you know, it's injured or got leg in plaster or whatever. You're expected to get up for a pregnant person, pregnant woman. Now, if you've had a long day and all you want to do is take a seat, you are frowned upon. There was a situation in the American sitcom How I Met Your Mother where one of the characters completes the New York Marathon without training. and as a gift, all the finishers are allowed to go on the subway for that day, and he decides to take the subway home, but all of a sudden he can't move. He can't get his legs moving because of the lack of training. And on the train comes a person on crutches, and he says, "Sorry, I can't move. I can't move." He just doesn't say anything to the old woman and the pregnant woman who gets on behind her. It's magnificent writing, but that is what I'm trying to get at. You've paid for a seat, yet you've got to give it up when someone like that comes on. It's understandable, it's polite, but there are just times when you think, oh, fuck you, I'm not getting up. Bollocks to it. So what if I'm unpopular? And that's the way I'm beginning to feel just lately. But, you know, it's just a stigma that goes with public transport. Is it going to run? Is it going to run on time? Are you going to get a seat? Or are you going to have to stand up for the most, if not all, of the journey altogether? And how early / late will you get to your destination? That is 5 questions you have to ask yourself every time you use public transport. And quite frankly, it's 5 questions that make me cringe when I think about them. If I have to use it, that's a 7th question. So I thank you for watching. I hope that's answered the request relatively quickly. I say relatively quickly, almost half an hour long. Thank you for the requests. Keep them coming in. As I said on the last edition to Walk Up 142 about how foreign people are allowed to compete on Britain's Got Talent. If you follow my shows, you know how I feel about reality TV. So what I might do next time around is maybe do a moaning show full of mini moans and see how I get there. So I thank you for watching as always. Any requests / comments in the comment box. If you're watching this for the first time, please subscribe. I could always use more subscribers, more videos. And I'll see you next time for more moaning.